Okay, so we move on with the preventive taping of the ankle joint, but this one is slightly more elaborate and slightly more stronger in terms of providing support to the ankle, right? Previous one, if you look here, was quite restricted to the distal part of the foot and proximal part of the shin. Here what we will do is, we will use the distal part of the foot, but we will go slightly up on the shin, and we will make sure that the foot is pushed into dorsiflexion because of our ankle architecture, our support architecture. All right. So again, we want to be friendly and add to the comfort of our participant or our subject, because he has volunteered to help us in this. So we must make sure that we are absolutely caring and take care of the fact that everything about this taping, if you can slide down a little bit please. Yeah, thank you. So you see this, guys, there's a gastrocnemius, the calf muscle is coming here and becoming a tendon. So after this, the bulk is gone and the flattening has started. So this is kind of our end point of the ankle taping. So this is where we generally want to end it. All right. So after a nice and smooth looking pre-wrap, let's see what we do in this case. Okay, we take the rigid adhesive tape and we create some anchors. A little bit of this I will put on the skin, just a little bit, maybe 1/3, so that it kind of has additional layer of adhesiveness to the skin. So that's anchor layer number 1. Then we will have an about 2/3 free and 1/3 covered. We have the anchor layer, anchor number 2, and maybe we want to have the anchor number 3. I'll tell you why this might turn out to be useful. 2 is good enough, but 3 is better. All right. So then we have the next anchor, which is at the bottom, or the lower anchor. Do remember that there is something to be considered here. Remember this. This is how our foot lands, and we have the 5th metatarsal bulging out a little bit. So when foot will land, this part of the foot will expand. So our taping has to be after this point. So we cannot overlap this, because if you overlap this, when the foot lands, there will be a sensation of constriction, and that's not very comfortable. All right. So we must quickly find where is that metatarsal. So we start from the softer part, and that's the harder part. We can't miss it. It's there in everyone. So that is where we want to be free. So we'll start our taping after that, or distal to this point. Okay? All right. So what I'll do is, just to be absolutely sure, I'm going to start right here. So my taping will be right here. That is his bone, and we are like 1/2 centimeter away from it, and that is exactly what you need. So this is the lower anchor. This is our lower anchor. Remember, the bottom should be free of creases as much as possible. So that's how you create your lower anchor. So we have a top anchor and a bottom anchor. Okay. Now what we're going to do is, we are going to add stirrups. Now stirrup basically is a long U-shaped tape that will pull the foot towards the shin, or dorsiflexion. Remember, plantar flexion is one of the mechanisms of injury. When the ankle gets sprained, it goes down and inwards. So we want to bring it up and inward. All right. So keeping the foot nice and straight, without much of an effort, but nice and straight. I will start from the top anchor, cross through the malleolar prominence, and move gently towards the other side, extending the stirrup again through the malleolar prominence as much as possible, and stick it on the top anchor. All right. And when I'm happy about the structure of the stirrup, I'm gently going to stick it nice and proper. Wonderful. Now we want to do is add another stirrup. So we will start in front of the previous one. So we will not overlap it, but we will move slightly anteriorly. All right, we will move slightly anteriorly, and again be very careful about navigating through the sole. Make sure no creases, no wrinkles, and eventually bring this up nice and full to the top anchor. And when I'm happy about the positioning, only then I will stick it in place. Otherwise, I'm going to hold it on as long as I'm not happy about where the stirrup is going to be. So basically what this is doing is it's pulling the whole foot up, and it's forcing the ankle to be dorsiflexed and preventing it to be plantar flexed. All right, good. So we have nice 2 stirrups. We can add one more, but you understand, if the foot is bigger, I'll probably add one more. Okay, but he has a shoe size of 7, so I think 2 is quite okay for him. Third, we are going to add the horseshoe. The same 3 horseshoes, starting from about a finger width from the bottom of the from the lower part of the sole. Okay, so it's about a finger width here. I stick it on the top. That's horseshoe 1. Covering the half of it is my horseshoe number 2. Covering the half of the second one is my horseshoe number 3. So we are here. So we have a top anchor, bottom anchor, 2 stirrups, and 3 horseshoes. All right? Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do some good reinforcement. What kind of reinforcement we're talking about? We will put a figure of 8 and we'll put a heel lock. Exactly in the same way. We start from here, we cross over down, and we make sure that the bottom is free of wrinkles and creases. We cross over again, and we finish a figure of 8. In many of the videos you will see they will keep doing in the same length. That may not be such a great idea, because that might lead to too much of constriction to the athlete, because this tape is not elastic. So we will go one length for one particular objective. So one length for figure of 8, and then one length for a heel lock. So I'll show you 2 kinds of heel locks here. The first heel lock is what we have learned previously. It almost follows the figure of 8, goes down, nice and flat on the sole, goes up, cross on the other side, stay there, stay there, stay there, and then just manipulate so that you can get that bottom oblique, nice and flat on the sole, and we finish it up here. Okay? Now, let me show you the second way of applying the heel lock. So I will do is a partial stirrup and a partial heel lock. Okay? So previous heel lock, I started from here. This one, I'll start from the top. Okay? And make it like a stirrup first. Make it like a stirrup first. And then I'll move into a heel lock. So I went down like that, came up like that, and then now I'm making this into a heel lock. Okay? Now I'm making this into a heel lock on this side, and then another one on this side. Okay, so now this heel lock has an additional layer of traction coming from this length of the tape. Okay, nice. So we make sure that minimum stuff on the bottom, and we are done. So now what we want to do, see, these are loose ends, it might come out, right? So we will lock this up. So eventually we finish this with locks. And remember, you may have seen a few videos where they go from bottom up. This is something we go from top down. All right, and I'll show you why we go from top down is for a functional reason. So that's lock number 1. That's closing lock. So these are called as closing anchors or closing locks because they are now closing up the entire structure of the tape applied. Make sure that your taping looks nice, consistent and uniform. Equal amount of gap between subsequent layers. Alright, that is really important. In addition to looking aesthetically more appealing, trust me, it also gives a better degree of adhesion and better degree of support. Okay, maybe just one more so that we can grip his lower part of the tibia and fibula. And okay, so never tend to overdo. Okay, just do as what is really needed. All right, so this taping looks nice, uniform, minimum wrinkles all around. One on this heel which has now been destroyed. Okay, so this is how it looks from the medial side. Come down here, this is how it looks at the sole, nice and flat. This is how it looks on the lateral side. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll kind of rub the entire thing in place so that make sure that the tape nicely conforms to his body parts and angles. All right, after the taping is done, a very important thing, you must check if it's too tight or it's just nice. How do we check that? We press the nail bed, it becomes white, leave it, it becomes red instantly. That means the blood is adequately flowing, circulation has not been obstructed. All right, so that is how you do. This is a solid prevention of an ankle joint. This will lead to superb amount of stability, a lot of assurance to the athlete that now my ankle is not going to go anywhere. I can now put my 100% effort, train with 100% intensity, and maybe I might win my game for my team. This can give you that degree of assurance. Final test, you must ask the athlete to come down, walk a few steps, and provide the feedback on how it feels. If it feels too tight, we have a trick down our sleeve to make it slightly more comfortable. So maybe you want to walk a few steps and let us know how is the feeling. Is it too tight? Is it too loose? Or you feel a nice and secured ankle now?
Sounds good.
Looks good. All right. Okay. Define that good.
However, it will be better, I think, if this part can be...
So, all right, slightly more relieved. Okay, sit down. So what you see here, despite the fact that we were clear of that fifth metatarsal that protrudes out, he still feels a bit of tightness here. So I'm not going to, on the lateral side, despite the fact that his bone is here, right? Maybe this additional layer went into the bone. So we are not required to take off an entire thing. We just have a trick down, up our sleeve rather. So what we are going to do is we are going to peel off this part just a little bit, lift it off the skin, and we are going to make a small nick here. Okay, be very careful and use a scissor that's really sharp and keep making small nicks and open up this part. So my objective is to cut off this entire 1 centimeter length of the tape, which probably is the reason why he is feeling that extra bit of tightness. Okay, we opened this part. What we'll do is we'll also slightly open the part on the medial side so that the foot can expand equally on both sides. All right, so I think that should give him the required amount of relief. Maybe you want to quickly walk a few steps.
I can feel it already.
He can already feel it, all right? But walking is the ultimate test of validity and credibility. Okay? Feels good. All right. Great job. All right, so we have a question here. Go on.
So doctor, just now you mentioned that usually to end it off, usually people would take from bottom up. But you mentioned that it's more important to tape from top
Top
bottom,
down. It's a very good question, because in real life this question has a lot of purpose. When he will put on a sock, he will put on the sock this way. All right? He will not put on the sock from the top. So if it's bottom up, you see, this doesn't do any damage to the tape. But if this was other way around, you see, this starts opening up the tape. So that tape is not going to stay for long. So from top down gives him the benefit that the tape will remain, no matter how much you do, it's not going to go anywhere. All right? So this tape, despite his putting on the sock and rolling it down, putting it again, rolling it down, this will stay in place. So this has a more functional purpose in real life activities rather than anything to do with the support. But we want the tape to stay there for a longest period of time, so we want this to be bottom up. Okay? Yeah, good question.